Every breach starts the same way, a vulnerability that nobody found in time. For GRC professionals and auditors, vulnerability scanning isn't just an IT task, it's the evidence layer sitting behind every control claim you make in an audit. When you tell a regulator your organization patches critical systems within 30 days, a vulnerability scan is what proves it. First, it's about protection, reducing your exposure before an attacker finds it for you. Second, it covers everything on-premises servers, cloud workloads, and endpoints, all in scope. And third, it's about compliance, turning raw scan data into audit-ready evidence. In this masterclass, we are going to detect, triage, and remediate live using one of the most widely deployed scanners in the industry, Nessus. Let's get into it. Before you ever open a scanner, you need three words straight in your head because auditors get tested on the difference. A vulnerability is a weakness in a system, an application, or a process that could be exploited. A threat is anything capable of exploiting that weakness. That could be an attacker, a piece of malware, or even an unpatched process left running. And risk is the combination of the two. The likelihood that a threat actually exploits a vulnerability multiplied by the impact if it does. Keep that formula in your head. Risk is roughly vulnerability times threat times impact. It's a single sentence that explains why some findings get fixed same day and others sit in a backlog. Now, every publicly known vulnerability gets a CVE ID, unique reference number, the entire security industry shares. Here's an example: CVE 2021 41773, an Apache HTTP server path traversal flaw that leads to remote code execution. That CVE then gets scored using CVSS, the common vulnerability scoring system, which turns it into number from 0 to 10. This one scores a 9.8, that's about as severe as it gets. CVSS scores breaks down into four bands: critical 9.0 and above, high 7.0 to 8.9, medium 4.0 to 6.9, and low anything under 4. Here's the rule that never changes: critical and high findings are where your remediation effort goes first every single time. So what exactly is Nessus? Nessus is a vulnerability scanner that tests hosts against a constantly updated plugin library, then scores and reports whatever it finds. It's one of the most widely deployed scanning tools in GRC and IT security programs anywhere. The console scans, reports, policies, and plugins down the left side. Right now, this instance shows 4 active scans and 180 hosts scanned. But watch this number: plugins loaded, climbing past 238,000. Each of those plugins is a small script that tests for one specific weakness. That's the engine underneath everything Nessus does. And that plugin library is updated daily against newly disclosed CVEs. So your scans stay current with the threat landscape as it evolves, not just current with last year's patch list. Scans, policies, compliance, audits, and reporting, all of it lives inside one console. 7 things Nessus looks for. Nessus finds far more than just missing patches. Let's walk through the 7 categories you'll see most in a real scan report. Misconfiguration: services left in an insecure default state. Think open file shares, verbose error messages, or debug mode left on in production. Missing patches: known fixes that vendors already shipped but that were never applied to the live system. Weak or default passwords: the oldest way into the system and still one of the most common. Factory credentials that were never changed. Open ports and unnecessary servers: every open port you don't need is an extra door left unlocked. SSL and DLS certificate issue: expired certificates, self-signed certificates, or certificates using a weak cipher sitting on an exposed service. Outdated software versions running builds with publicly documented exploitable CVEs already attached to them. Privilege escalation risk: a low privilege foothold an attacker could chain into full administrator access. Every finding in a scan report falls into one of these 7 buckets. Learn to recognize them, and the report stops looking like a wall of red and starts looking like a checklist. Scanning 10.20.4.18 live simulation. Let's watch a scan run against a live target and see what surfaces in real time. The command launches a scan. Nessus loads all 238,000 plugins, completes host discovery, one live host found, and then runs a port scan. Ports 22, 80, 443, and 8080 come back open. First finding, an open SSH port on 22 with a weak cipher configuration. CBC ciphers negotiated and no multi-factor authentication enforced. That's a medium. Second finding, and this is the serious one, an outdated Apache build carrying CVE 2021 41773. That's the same path traversal to remote code execution flaw we mentioned earlier, critical severity. Third finding, TLS 1.0 is still enabled on port 443. That's a deprecated protocol, and on its own, that's a compliance failure in most frameworks. Fourth finding, default credentials are live on an exposed admin panel on port 8080 critical. 4 findings, 4 completely different fixes required, and this is a small target. Now imagine this scaled across a few hundred hosts. This is exactly why prioritization matters as much as detection. The vulnerability lifecycle, tracking lifecycle stage. A finding is only useful once it moves through a lifecycle. From the moment it's detected all the way to a verified fix, 5 stages. Detection. Detection. Nessus raises the alert on the dashboard the instant a scam completes. Analysis. The CVSS score tells the team exactly how severe the finding is and where it should sit in the queue. Triage. The finding gets a priority tag and gets assigned to an owner. No owner, no accountability. Remediation. A patch or a configuration change gets deployed to actually close the gap. Verification. A rescan confirms the fix actually worked and only then does the finding close screen. Skip the last step and you're just hoping the fix worked. An unverified fix is not a close finding, it's a guess with a checkbox next to it. Here's the step that turns a vulnerability scanner into a GRC evidence engine. Mapping. A scan finding is only evidence, audit evidence, once it's mapped to a control framework. On its own, a CVE number means nothing to an auditor from a compliance standpoint. It has to point back to a specific control. Nessus results roll up into a compliance heat map across every framework you are measured against. ISO 27001, SOC 2, PCIDSS, NIST CSF. Green means compliant, amber and gold means gaps of varying severity, and red means a critical gap that needs immediate attention. SS results roll up into a compliance heat map across every framework you are measured against. Take that same finding from earlier, CVE 2021 41773. It doesn't just map to one control, it maps directly to PCI DSS requirement 6.2 patch management and to NIST CSF PRIP 12 vulnerability management planning. One finding, 2 framework gaps, both flagged simultaneously. And that rolls up into an overall risk score. In this case, 82 out of 100 auto-computed from your open, critical, and high find. That's the number that ends up in the board report. Section 8, on-premises versus cloud. It scans on-premises infrastructure and cloud workloads with the same rigor, just deployed differently in each environment. On premises, an agent or a scanner appliance sits on the local network and scans your server racks directly, checking OS patch levels, local services, and physical network segmentation. In the cloud, Nessus scans VM instances and managed services across Azure, AWS, and GCP, looking for exposed ports, IAM misconfigurations, and storage permission issues. And the finding patterns actually differ by environment. Premises tends to surface patch gaps, sitting around 64 on this chart. Cloud tends to surface misconfigurations instead, running higher at 81. Same engine, same rigor, but two very different attack surfaces to defend. Now let's walk the actual workflow start to finish inside Nessus itself, 5 steps. Step 1, create a scan policy and choose a template. Here we are naming it quarterly external audit scan and selecting the basic network scan template as our starting point. Step 2, launch the scan against your target range. We hit launch and scan runs against 10.20.4.0/24, 12 hosts in scope. Step 3, review results as they populate, sorted by severity. Host 10.20.4.18 comes back with Apache RCE critical. 10.20.4.22 shows default admin credentials, also critical. 10.20.4.9 shows TLS 1.0 still enabled, high. And 10.20.4.31 shows weak SSH ciphers, medium. Step 4, export the report in whatever format your audit trail requires. PDF for the report itself, CSV for data analysis, or the native .nessus format for re-import. The report saves as Q3 external audit scan.pdf. Step 5, feed those results straight into your GRC dashboard. The sync completes and the organization's risk score updates in real time, moving from 82 up to 91, reflecting the new critical findings just discovered. That's the entire operational roof from opening a blank policy screen to a synced board visible risk numbers in 5 steps. Five habits separate a mature vulnerability management program from a one-off scan that gets run once and forgotten. Schedule scans on a regular cadence. Vulnerabilities don't wait politely for your next audit cycle. New CVEs are published every single day. Prioritize critical findings first. Severity drives the queue, not convenience, not whichever ticket is easiest to close. Document every remediation step. The documentation is your audit evidence. If it isn't written down, as far as an auditor is concerned, it didn't happen. Align every finding to the compliance framework it maps to. A finding that isn't mapped is just noise sitting in a report. Verify the fix before you close the ticket. We said it before and it's worth repeating. An unverified fix isn't a fix. 5 habits, build them into your process, and vulnerability scanning stops being a periodic fire drill and starts being a real defensible program. SS helps you detect, analyze, triage, remediate, and verify the full life cycle in one tool. Detect, analyze, triage, remediate, verify, 5 stages every time, no shortcuts. Detect, analyze, triage, remediate, verify, 5 stages, every time, no shortcuts. That's the evidence trail every GRC audit is actually built on. Not a spreadsheet assembled the week before the auditor shows up, but a continuous documented process. If this helped you get a clear picture of how vulnerability scanning fits into a real compliance program, subscribe for more from the Cybersecurity Auditor Mastery Series. The series is brought to you by Audit.site. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.